If you're in the mental health industry and want to grow your impact, your reach, and your organization, you need to be at the Mental Health Marketing Conference. This October 7th through 9th, join hundreds of marketers, executives, and clinicians for 3 powerful days of inspiration, strategy, and networking. From AI to storytelling, from branding to market strategy, you'll leave with actionable ideas, meaningful connections, and access to industry experts. It's so much more than a conference. It's a community. Visit mhmarketing.org to learn more and grab your ticket today. Attend in person in Franklin, Tennessee, just south of Nashville, or attend online and see me as one of the keynotes. And use discount Joe to get an extra 10% off any ticket. Again, that's mhmarketing.org and use promo code Joe to get an extra 10% off any ticket. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1240. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you build a thriving private practice that you absolutely love. We often say it, but we can't say it enough. We want that thriving side, that we don't have to buy into what lots of us heard in grad school, that we're not in it for the money. Just because you want to make money doesn't make you a bad person. It just magnifies what's already there. So if you're doing good work and then you make more money, I'm pretty sure you're going to keep doing good work. You're going to help more people. You're going to hire more people. You're going to expand in your community and do things that you couldn't do if your practice wasn't thriving. But we know there's lots of ways to make money. And why should you make money in a way that you don't want to do it? For me, that was starting a group practice, eventually realizing that I really didn't want to do the actual counseling anymore. And the podcast was taking off back in 2013. And, the consulting was taking off, and realizing, I kind of want to do this national stuff and help people grow their practices, and eventually sold my practice in 2019. And that's why I'm so excited today to talk with our guests, because they have a very similar journey where they have a counseling practice in Tucson. They have a podcast. They're growing really amazing things. And let me tell you a little bit about them. We have Tarah and E.J. Kerwin, who are relationship experts and founders of Relationship Renovation, a therapy practice in Tucson, Arizona, focused on helping couples strengthen and transform their relationships. Their flagship venture, the Relationship Renovation Counseling Center, uses a unique model centered on intentional communication and empathy. They have also launched the Relationship Renovation at Home program, providing structured support for couples worldwide. Since 2019, they have co-hosted the Relationship Renovation podcast, offering insights and solutions for common relationship challenges. And in 2024, they expanded their reach by launching a YouTube channel to further support couples in building healthier connections. EJ, Tara, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Thank you. So happy to be here. And just hearing you share our story over the last 8 years, I'm just wow. Even when you think of you're in the thick of it, we have done so much, and I just feel so proud of the work we've done, all because of our own train wreck of a situation, if you will.
Well, I wondered, as you were reading it, I was wondering if you, because you said we do have a little similar paths, if you feel the same way sometimes when you're in the thick of it. It seems like you're just surviving in your little bubble. Mm-hmm. And then you pull out and you're like, God dang, we're actually we've done a lot. We've we're reaching a lot of people out there, but sometimes it just feels like, treading water with sharks underneath me.
Yeah, well, I think it's a long time ago, I had a podcast guest that talked about how we need to have planned celebrations, because otherwise we just keep moving the goalposts. It's I think about how in 2024, one of our KPIs, it wasn't a sexy KPI, but it was around operations. And Sam, our COO, at the beginning of the year, was going to take some time to look into project management systems and better ways to communicate. And, by, first quarter, we were using Slack, we're using Asana, we had trained the whole team. And by the end of the year, it was just seamless. We don't even email anymore. And so it's easy to just say, well, this is how it is. But, to actually stop and say, we had a KPI this year of wanting to have Sam not be in as many meetings and be able to actually focus on the good stuff. If we don't stop and pause and say, wow, let's reflect on what we've actually done, it's easy to just say, okay, what's the next goal? What's the next goal? And to never
Yeah,
actually stop and
absolutely.
celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we feel that way about business and even just about life and relationship of like, God, it's like so important to stop and slow down and reflect and,
Yeah, and grow
and grow. Yeah.
Yeah, we're really good therapists. We're not the best business owners, but we keep learning every day how to be better business owners. And like you, I mean, we still have a caseload on Thursdays, but we went from about 35 couple sessions a week to a handful now because
Wow.
we have our team now. But we were ready because we were like, how do we get this more, like you said, national, global, so we can impact more couples? But we had to create that time and space, but also revenue in the counseling practice. And again, really good therapists learning how to be really good business owners.
Well, I want to ask, the brand Relationship Renovation, I've renovated a number of houses. Like there's a time when you have like an ugly house. It's not what you want it to be. You have the side of it that I'm good at is the destruction side of tearing down walls,
Rip it
putting
down.
crap in a big bin that, someone's going to come pick up. And then I usually hire someone to then do like all the rest of the renovation. If we use that analogy for your own relationship, I mean, you've got a lot of different pressures on it, being business owners and, being, in a relationship. And then on top of that, adding the podcast and adding a YouTube channel and all sorts of other things. I guess my question is like, what's your relationship like right now? And how is that compared to how it used to be?
I mean, I think our relationship is much better for all of it.
Yeah,
That's for sure. Certainly on the emotional side, like on the emotional side, we can handle things so much better and communicate better, and maybe like we're more resilient, and we
absolutely.
bounce back quicker.
We've built tolerance, because we had to, because of what we do. We have to practice what we preach. And then because of the people that look up to us and just us being models and role models for our therapists and interns, like we have to be able to continue to grow and build tolerance and know that life is tricky. And especially when we're in a relationship and we work together and we're in a blended family, have 4 kids, like it's never going to ever be easy. We have to consistently use the tools that we've developed, that we've read about, that we've learned about through other podcasts. And we love that we're imperfect. And so we kind of bring our imperfect in and show it to the world that we can actually handle it. And I think that's for a lot of the couples that come into our practice. I'm just going to say 80% are, it's either this or we're done. It's like we're so happy we built the tolerance to deal with very uncomfortable things, because that's how we're still here instead of avoiding running away thinking the grass is greener.
I don't think there's a we're done anymore
Yeah.
with us. I think we've gotten to the point where we feel. I mean, I was thinking of like that renovation metaphor, and I think like our renovation is like the one where you never leave the house and you're like constantly moving into another room while another room's being like torn down, and
I've done that once
it's
and I'm like, never again.
yeah. I feel like that's sort of like
I
our
love that.
renovation is that we're like we have so many pots, and just having like 4 kids and it's a blended family, and then the business and being therapists and all that, it's just like something is always getting worked on.
But the confidence we've built that we can get through it is huge. So that's why we feel very comfortable airing what we do to our staff on our podcast, to other guests or when we're guests on other podcasts, we just share exactly why we are in this place now. Because when we got married, we were 2 therapists. We met, we were both specializing in eating disorders. We were working at an inpatient facility. And so when we, got engaged, got married, pregnant with twins on the honeymoon, right? 0 to 4 kids in a year and a half for me. I'm thinking like, we're therapists. We know the tools. We got this. And it went south so quickly. And I just said, EJ, we're 2 trained therapists. I've been a marriage therapist for over 20 years. I said, if we are having this much difficulty, we've got to help our community. We have to figure us out first because I know I love you. I'm just really resentful of my life right now. And so I just always had that empathy of like, gosh, we have all these skills. I've been doing this for so long and I don't even know where to start right now. We have to figure it out and then we have to support our community. And little did I know that that support would now be where we're at today. So I feel like it was exactly what was supposed to happen. Like universe gave us all of this suffering so that EJ and I could work it through together and then help other couples, you know, build the tolerance, I guess, build the resilience to make this relationship last, which a lot of people want to run from, right? Like, don't want to do this
How do
anymore.
you
This is
guys,
too hard.
yeah, how do you guys find that balance between like we have to really set a good example by doing the work and often doing the work publicly
Yeah.
and what you said of being imperfect, like I think that a lot of times when you're a quote influencer or even just putting your name out there publicly, if you're saying relationship renovation, it's like, and there's a sweet spot where you don't want to be too much of a train wreck, but you don't want to be too perfect.
Yeah.
People won't relate or they'll say like, what do they know? Like, how do you guys find that balance?
I mean, I think that, I don't know, like there's a certain level of like dignity,
Mm.
I want to preserve. And like talking about a difficult dynamic between the two of us, um, and talking about it in a thoughtful way. And oftentimes when we're doing it like in this like, situation, you know, in the media realm, sometimes it's really been a gift because it's allowed us to have really deep, thoughtful conversations that
Mm.
maybe if we were like at our house and it was we'd had a glass of wine or whatever, and maybe it wouldn't have gone as well. But in some ways it's like this
Mm,
allows us to sort of preserve a lot of dignity when we
Oh.
talk about things and not like totally unravel.
And for me, it's this idea of compassion between us, right? When we see couples at our center, they're like there's so much little compassion. They are just so angry at each other. And I remember I felt that way. But now, when I'm imperfect and I don't get it right all the time, we have built such compassion and empathy for each other that it's like that space allows us to be imperfect and be okay with it in that moment because we repair very quickly and we don't stay in
mm,
this unhealthy place because of the individual and the couples work we have done. So for me, it's just like this idea of compassion because it shifts so quickly. And you'll see it with couples in the work that they do. It's called like the messy middle, sort of, but then there's this massive shift to compassion where now the couple, they're looking at each other. They're like getting each other, like, oh, you were just trying to make me crazy. I get this. This was your own suffering for a really long time. Like it takes a minute to get there, but that's where we got to in our relationship. So I feel like the moments of suffering are going to happen, but we hold it with compassion now.
When I think also like that there
mm.
it's been a gift also, because there's I really and Tara really helped me with this. Like I was much more of a sort of that blank page therapist,
Mm.
and then Tara really sort of like opened me up to the idea of like, more like thoughtful disclosure in the therapeutic space.
Mm-hmm.
But then coming here, it really blows the roof off because there's no ethics here. I'm not in a relationship with a client
Mm-hmm.
doing a podcast. And so it really like just like knocks the door down of like, I can share whatever I feel is appropriate. And we always ask each other permission. Is it okay if I share this either right
Always.
on air or before? But then that's what people write us the letters about. Like they write us the letters about like, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for saying that like you guys don't have it all figured out, that you still fall apart, that sometimes you're in despair, like
Mm,
because none of us open up in that way almost anywhere in our lives and
right.
say like, yeah, it's freaking hard,
Yeah.
it's really hard, like my heart is broken today, I feel so lonely, I feel so
Mm,
misunderstood, I feel like such a jerk.
And I think that's why we got so busy so quickly, like because our message wasn't like, we know how your relationship should be. Our message has always been like, we went through this really difficult transition after
we are going through it.
twins were born, and like this is why we speak with our hearts, right, with very healthy boundaries, of course, in session, but it's like very quickly people love that. It's not just like EJ and Tara, like they're here to support. I remember people would be like, you guys have to charge more, you guys are doing these like 90-minute sessions for $150. Like, we didn't know, we just wanted to help others not leave so quickly, because that's what we want. I mean, I was in that minivan, Joe, driving to Kentucky to see my twin sister. I was like, I'm out of here. I didn't sign up for this. And then I was like, no, I can't. Like, I love him. Like, what's happening? Right. My nervous system's never been in this place.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so grateful that we can, and I'm not saying every relationship should be together, but at least go through what you can to have clarity and don't make a decision out of fear. Right. And couples will come and they'll be like, how do we know this is going to work? It's like the first question. I'm like, oh, well, if we knew that, we would have like, right, a line wrapped around our counseling center, like, let me in. I said, it's not that, but it's very clear, right, that both of you are suffering and it's really hard to have clarity right now. Why don't you go through this process, right? It's a process. It's a model, beginning, middle, and end. And by that time, the hope is that you have more clarity around this big decision that has to be made for the two of you. And that feels really good for them, right? We're not promising anything, just like with us, but we know that we went through building resilience, building tolerance to the difficult moments. And it's worked for us. That's great. We used our own model.
Yeah. Well, Tara, tell me about that model, because like before we started rolling, you started to tell me like, stop,
Okay.
it's all the good stuff. Like, I don't want to use it up. It's sort of like I'm in an improv troupe that I talk about a lot on here. And it's like, before a show, we used to really like warm up and practice. And sometimes it felt like, oh, all the funny stuff we did before the show even started. So Tara, tell me about this model that you guys have created and that you've implemented with your group practice. And then I do want to shift into kind of hearing when you guys decided to go national with the podcast and things like that. But tell me about the model and, what clients go through, what clinicians go through, and what that looks like.
So the model is called Relationship Renovation Model, and it's it's about 28 lessons. It used to be 12. I mean, it's just grown and it's just gotten more in depth. But really what it does is we use a ton of different modalities: cognitive behavioral, attachment theory, narrative therapy, mindfulness, you name it, we have it in there. But what we really wanted for couples, because I've been doing couples work for 20 years, is some type of structured process where there's a beginning, middle, and end, where couples don't just come in, they vent, they get their coping skills, they come back, they vent, right? And EJ, by the way, I remember I said, EJ, we have to do this. And he's like, never, Tara. I do not like working with couples. I'm like, okay, but we can work with this. And so we have kind of different backgrounds. I'm definitely more of like a CBT therapist. EJ is more mindfulness based, and a little psychodynamic. But so we were like, okay, well, what would feel really good for couples? And I know, like, I love family systems. And so one of the first things we do, so we do a relationship assessment in the beginning, and we really try to understand what those goals are. Hey, when you guys are done here and it felt really good, where do you want to go in your relationship? Not where you don't want to go. And then we take our couples through an entire genogram and timeline process, understanding, right, what was role modeled when they were growing up, what type of attachment, how did they deal with emotions, what's their nervous system like, and really going through that first part of it, couples begin to understand, like, oh, they're not just avoiding me, like they learned how to avoid any kind of distressing emotion because otherwise it was unsafe.
And I think the clinicians really like that, especially the structure at the beginning, because I mean, one of the reasons I didn't enjoy doing couples very much was I found that there's two of them and it's so easy to get wrapped up into their system. They come in, they think you're a mediator, and really engaging them in a very in-depth like genogram, like timeline of their life and each other's life, which totally builds empathy. Then going into a timeline of their relationship, I feel like I can knock them out of them using this as a vent session. And then also, because sometimes you have to sort of force a couple into it because they want to vent. then I'm also telling them like now I can understand what the heck is going on
Right.
here. Like I understand the components of this system that's been created.
Right.
And now we can get into communication and we can get into intimacy and we get into these. But if we don't have all of that information from your past and then how you guys blended together, probably not very mindfully, how in the world am I going to untie this knot without this information? I think that's what clinicians love about the beginning.
And we help them understand, like, listen, we could talk about that affair right now, right? We have a lot of infidelity, but you won't hear it any differently. You've got to trust this process, that we want you to hear it differently. You're coming here for 75 minutes, right? Once a week. We have to be able to create something different in here so that you can continue doing whatever you need to do outside of here, but I won't let you won't hear it the same way. And so we kind of get through that process, which usually takes a few sessions because you're building the goals, you're developing the understanding and compassion of like attachment styles and growing up. And then we get into the skills part of communication, like that we're not born with, right? Like it is not innate for me to be like, oh, I made you feel bad. I'm so sorry. No, I'm like, no, you made me feel worse, right? We like want to go at that. And so we have a 3-part series, communication skills, where people are really learning them and we're coaching them through them and we're having them repeat back because it is practice and it's a skill. And we really try to get out of like, hey, these are skills we're not born with. It's okay to learn them. It's okay to practice and repeat after me because this is what's going to be helpful. Validation, active listening, I statements, acceptance versus resignation is a huge one that couples are like, I didn't even think of it like that. Right. And then we do a lot of cognitive restructuring from negative core beliefs to positive core beliefs. Then we kind of move into our intimacy series. It's more towards the latter part where couples can deepen their experience with intimacy, like what, and we start with like, what did you even learn about sex? Well, oh, to not do it until you're married and then you should really enjoy it. Like, oh my God, what kind of like crazy thing is that? That must be so confusing. All the way to the end, which is old story, new story, or narrative. And we really have the couple reflect on here's where we were when we came in. Here's our thoughts, beliefs, the feelings, what was showing up in our relationship. And here's the new story we have now that we're going to continue to develop through our lifetime. And here are all the skills we've built and the positive beliefs we have about each other right now. And then there's some like kind of tune-ups, like monthly tune-ups and then quarterly tune-ups just to make sure they're maintaining. But that was our thing. Like we developed this because we didn't want it to just be like a Band-Aid. We wanted it to be like from the core depth changes so that, and we'll have couples that come back like 7 years later because they're going through a big transition. They just need like a little pick me up, a little review, but it's awesome. People do their weekly check-ins. They do their daily check-ins. We hear from couples we saw back in 2016. Like it's just incredible. So that structure, kind of like I say with parenting, kids need structure to feel safe. It makes couples feel like, okay, there is a process to this. And it's by no means does it not get messy. It gets very messy. And really couples want to leave at the point of change, right? When homeostasis is disrupted, they're like, we're never coming back. And I'm like, but this is the point where you have to stay. And I tell them that in the first session. So I'm like, remember when I said that you don't ever want to come back because change is going to happen, but it's very unconscious? They're like, yeah. I'm like, it's happening. This is like the best news ever. And they think I'm crazy, but then they recognize their whole system is changing because of all of the work they've done. And although it's scary for change, they don't want to be back in that dysfunction, which was their homeostasis. So then what happened was, right, EJ and I got like on a year wait list, and we know couples can't wait a year. They can barely wait a week. So we were like, EJ, do you think this? At first, I'm like, no one can do it like us, right? I'm like all in my ego. And then I was like, no, I think.
How'd you overcome that mindset?
I was so scared.
Hired a couple people and got humbled.
Yeah. And that it's so cool because
it's such a big transition for group practice owners to move away from it. It's only me.
Important, but a long process of really finding comfort in it. I mean, it helped that we had that we had a model, we had like, the
Training
book
them.
that we were working with the couples. Then Tara wrote a companion manual for the therapist. So that as we trained them, they had a resource as well. And
But it's really cool because like all of our, we have play therapists, dance movement therapists, trauma therapists. They all take the couples through this model in their own way. Like we have one therapist who just does play with the couples through every lesson. I'm like, I find it like amazing. She's like so awesome. So, I mean, it's like any modality, any therapist could do this. They just have to make sure they're keeping the couple aligned and not getting triangulated in that process. But our therapists love it because, again, we don't learn how to do couples work really in grad school. Maybe there's more to it nowadays. I was back in 2002 when I was there.
As a therapist, I can tell you from experience that having the right EHR is an absolute lifeline. I recommend using therapy notes. They make billing, scheduling, note-taking, telehealth, and e-prescribe incredibly easy. Best of all, they offer live telephone support that's available 7 days a week. You don't have to take my word for it. Do your own research and see for yourself. Therapy Notes is the #1 highest rated EHR system available today, with a 4.9 out of 5 stars on trustpilot.com and on Google. All you have to do is click the link below or type promo code Joe on their website over at therapynotes.com and receive a special 2-month trial absolutely free. Again, that's therapynotes.com and use promo code Joe on the website. If you're coming from another EHR, Therapy Notes will also import your demographic data quick and easy at no cost, so you can get started right away. Trust me, don't waste any more of your time and try Therapy Notes. Just use promo code Joe at checkout. In the last 10 minutes or so, I want to make sure we have some time to talk about the decision to go national. So you're doing this good work, you're training your therapists, and then at what point are you like, you know what, let's do a podcast. Let's take this beyond just Tucson. Like what, how did that happen?
a lot of it for me was just out of like, I came from a media background. I worked in the music industry for a while in my 20s. I worked in TV, and it was just, I loved it. I just love it's the best way to get ideas out there. And it's, when I moved from media to therapy, it was like I finally got what I was chasing, which is just the compelling nature of interacting with a human life, of telling a story. Like there's nothing more compelling than real life, and so then having a podcast was just like, hey, let's talk about what we're doing. It's so interesting. People want to hear this. They want to hear it in a session. So they're certainly going to want to hear it at their home. And then there's also just this idea of, just looking at like how many people don't go to therapy.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't go to therapy. We get a lot of letters from people saying like, my husband found your podcast. We've been listening to it together for the past 3 months. It's been a game changer. We're happy. Our kids are happy. And so it wasn't out of anything other than enjoyment for the media
And a
and
resource.
and providing a resource.
And be a resource just for our counseling center, like, and our clients, because they'd be like, oh, I wish like my dad or my sister could like learn this one, acceptance versus resignation. And we had no idea it would go global. We really didn't, but we love that it has. It's amazing that we can get letters from all around the world saying thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Sometimes there's mean comments on YouTube about my voice, but I'm like, whatever. I love my voice. Shoo shoo. Exactly.
It's your voice.
Exactly.
And who are they? Well, I'm wondering, a lot of times people start a podcast or YouTube channel or whatever kind of with that intent of like, I just want to put something in the world. And then at some point there's a reality of like, okay, we're bootstrapping this. We're doing it all ourselves. We need to hire some people. There's more infrastructure if we want to grow this thing where there's more and more expenses. How did that transition to say, hey, we want to monetize this, or we need to have more money coming in through the podcast, or maybe that wasn't even something you thought about? How have you thought about the money and business side of a podcast as it's grown?
I mean, it's just a continual learning curve. I mean, to be just totally honest with you. and it's been a lot of trial and error, like, we did like kind of the, CPM game of just like, hey, let's just like, it really pollutes your product, and and you're paying pennies, you're getting pennies on your dollar for it. We have an online course that's doing like, that's doing really, doing better, and we're learning how to market that better and better.
But we don't monetize, or we don't get money from our podcast.
Yeah, our podcast right now is still like total, like it's a labor of love, and we're getting some help in figuring it out of how to do it. And it's just so interesting because like when I tell people like, hey, we have like, over 20,000 downloads a month, of our podcast, and people are like, oh my God. And I think like people's perception of what that is and what that equates like in dollars and cents is not, it's not realistic. So, it's been something that we've loved to do. We're getting better, and we're figuring out like, how does this translate into a separate, revenue stream from our counseling business? I mean, one of the things that's like that we could never quantify is how many people come in our doors at our counseling center because, just locally. I mean, I know it's been a big part of the success of our counseling center locally. So yeah, it's a tough one.
I mean, just to give my 2 cents there on your intake, you could just have, do you listen to the Relationship Renovation podcast? Just to know if
we have
they
just
already are listeners when they come.
learned a lesson in the last year about metrics, man. We were late to the game on metrics, and we finally, tracking all of our Google ads versus our Psychology Today profiles versus driving by and seeing our sign versus our podcast. So we've just like really figured all that stuff out and tracking it like really like comprehensively.
It's really the first time where we have some space to really oversee our business as a business instead of just being in the depths of it with all the supervision and interns and managing, 15 staff. It's just,
I think we became intentional business owners in the last year.
Yeah, we just hired a clinical supervisor yesterday to take over. So we'll even have more hours. So things are happening.
Yeah.
Have a clinical HR.
I was just talking to a consulting client. I was just talking to a consulting client this morning, and she has, I don't know, 30 or so clinicians and starting a podcast. And, even just seeing how it's like she's tapered down her clinical work, but then it's like she's doing more of the operational and more of the email. And it's like, you don't need to do all that. Like, let's pull you back. And she's like, well, what would I do then? And it's like, well, you can dream, you can grow, you can like, you don't like have to be in the muck of all the email and stuff. And so it's just interesting how these things that we don't know. And it's like, do you two even need to be the ones that look at the metrics? There's so many like data nerds out there that are in the like marketing space that, it may be that at some point you don't even have to learn this stuff. You just have people. So, I mean, it's crazy how much of our businesses rely on just like, I guess we should learn data.
Boy, I don't really want to do that.
I guess we're more intentional
and that was
now.
the thing too. Like, I've decided, Joe, I don't like to manage people. It is awful. That is not my heart. So I'm more into the creative development piece, so I've hired people in my place to manage because I'm not a good manager. I'm like, no, that doesn't make my heart happy. So so I am like the creator, developer of all things. Love it. That is what my heart knows, but I wouldn't have known had I not just gone through everything we had to go through with the Department of Health and blah, blah, blah. Like, why aren't you doing your progress notes within 48 hours?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I feel like we could spend a whole nother podcast talking about your relationship, another on your practice, another on the podcast. So much great stuff. I hope we can figure out ways to continue to overlap. The last question I always ask, and Tara, we'll start with you, is if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
That your heart is enough. This is huge. I supervise interns and associate level who are just starting, and they just want to know it all, and they're second guessing themselves, and they want to know this, and you do it so much better. And I'm constantly comparing myself, and I'm like, if your heart is in that room without judgment, right? I feel like that's what's made me a really great therapist, because I've had to learn how to not judge and keep my heart open. That's enough. And all the skills and tools and learning will come. But that is my message to anyone listening, is that your heart is enough. And I think it's Michael Singer, Heart with Ears. Like people just want to be
I love
heard,
Michael Singer.
and you're creating that space for them. And if you keep making it about you, that means you're doing a disservice to them. You can't be in that room like, oh my God, what do I say next? What do I say next? It's not about you. Heart with Ears. Okay.
Michael Singer, his Untethered Soul, like got me through my ridiculous, painful divorce. The audience knows a lot of that backstory, but that was definitely one of my life buoys. So just having you quote Michael Singer makes my heart even happier that you're on this show.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that is my book. That was a huge inspiration for this business. Just to have to let you know that.
Oh my gosh. Well, we will put a link to that book in the show notes because
Yeah.
everyone should read that, in my opinion. EJ, what about you? If every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
That this is a noble field,
Mm.
that we do incredible stuff, is that, and I feel like we devalue ourselves in comparison to medical doctors and other people in the health profession. And what we do, the way we help people sort through their internal experience of the world is life changing, and that you're changing countless people's lives who then exponentially, change other people's lives. And so, because it's a noble field, you deserve a lot. We deserve more. We deserve more respect. We deserve to have thriving businesses. We have to hold those two, that we have to hold those two things together. That what we do is incredibly impactful in this world, and therefore we have to figure out a way to grow this field and help people thrive in it, because there's a lot of people who survive in it, and that shouldn't be.
It's so awesome. Well, if people want to connect with you, if they want to, follow your work, I know you have the Relationship Ready program. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that and where else people can find you.
We have Relationship Renovation at Home, which is an online course. People can find it at relationshiprenovation.com. It's a great course. It has videos. It has downloadables. So, obviously couples can work through that. If you're a clinician and you just want to connect with our ideas, I think our podcast and our YouTube channel are the best place. Relationship Renovation, where we put out a weekly episode. We interview a lot of wonderful people. A lot of it's just Tarah and I talking in depth about different things.
It's diverse.
It's diverse, yeah. But Relationship Renovation, good old Google will
take you to our Instagram and all that stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll link to all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Well, if you are a group practice owner, we have our sustainable group practice track where people, just like these folks are in there every day talking to each other, supporting each other as mega group practice owners. So if you have over 10 clinicians, would love for you to join the sustainable group practice track. That's part of our membership community. If you're just getting going, we have our sustainable solo practice. We have group practice launch. Those are all tracks within our membership. So head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/membership. No matter your phase of practice, whether you're in grad school and you're like, next semester I graduate and I want to start a practice, all the way up through selling your practice. We're representing people as business brokers. So everything in between, even launching into podcast e-courses, certifications, things like that. We have something for you for your entire just timeline of being a therapist, and whatever that looks like. We typically have something for you to support you. We also couldn't do this show without amazing sponsors like Therapy Notes. Therapy Notes is the best electronic health records out there. They will help you switch over from your current EHR. They also give you 2 months for free or just money off if you use promo code Joe at checkout. They are phenomenal. They help with automated billing. It's going to make it easier to outsource your billing. So many reasons to switch to Therapy Notes. Just head on over to therapynotes.com, read about it, and at checkout, just use promo code Joe. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.